Now, like I told you, here on Ancient Aliens, yeah, mhm, they tell us how when people are abducted, they think one of the reasons is the aliens want our DNA for testing. Right? They also point out how, like we learned in high school, in biology class, if you paid attention, that we are either Rh positive or Rh negative, and there are four different blood types as well. The most rarest is O positive or O negative, right? I think, or um, also AB negative, right? The most common is either A positive or B positive, and then you got Rh negatives, which are the same factors, AB, A, or B, right? Though there's only four blood groupings, right? Now, the odd thing is, when I was in school, they thought AB came from two B's joining together and making AB positive or AB negative blood grouping, right? Now, if the father is A positive, right, and the girl is negative, Rh negative, like Mary Bell, she said she was B negative, right? But she said Bart was B positive, I think, if I remember correctly. That part. Yeah.
From their bodies and essentially experimented on by these strange, short, black-eyed entities that become known as the Greys.
Greys, right.
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, an equally chilling aspect of these reported alien abductions is the role that human blood and blood type seems to play in determining which human subjects become the targets of experimentation. New York, New York, 1940. At the Rockefeller Institute, Nobel Prize-winning scientist Carl Landsteiner makes yet another groundbreaking finding in his work surrounding human blood types. Landsteiner discovers the Rh factor, a type of protein or antigen on the surface of red blood cells, setting the scientific world afire. One of the things about human blood types is we have an Rh, either positive or negative blood type. And it simply has to do with a particular antibody on the outside of our red blood cells. If you have it, you're positive, and if you don't, you're negative. Landsteiner was the first person to identify the original A, B, and O blood groups. But his latest discovery ignites a much more fascinating mystery underlying the nature of human blood.
Now, because this is a mystery and I learned about it in high school, I'm doing what's called a discussion about it under fair use. This is a TV program. And then what I'm doing is I'm using what I learned about it because I'm O positive, I don't know, which next to O negative is the universal donor. Now, like I told you, Mary Bell told me she received a transfusion of O positive blood in the Philippines, even though she's B negative, right? If I remember correctly, one time, right? And that's why her body might be more receptive to my sperm, for example, if Steve is a positive blood type other than a positive himself. I don't know, right? Steve's blood type, right? But it could be A, B, or again AB. or now. And that's what I mean. Now. If I'm having sex with her, for example, even if she tries to get pregnant by Steve, hypothetically, right? Say she has sex with him first and then me, right? Don't know how far apart, just kissing, right? My sperm are more friendly to her body because she had a transfusion of O positive blood than Steve's if he's B, A, or AB, right? I don't know. Now, the thing is, if his sperm goes into her body can attack it with what's called antibodies, right? And that'll kill his sperm when it enters her vagina. It's a foreign threat. Right. Right. Possibly, right? Right. Now, I'm O positive, perhaps O negative. I'm not sure because one of my sister's blood type is negative, right? Well, the only way that can happen is if my mom has also a recessive O negative blood type, right? And Bigrati is A negative, I believe, right? All right. So that means my sister is either, the way you make A negative is either two A negatives or an A and an O negative, right? At the same time, right? That's why I'm talking about this stuff. Also, hermaphroditism is a real thing too, medically. Even though it's called an endocrine disorder. But if you look at the actual genes of a true hermaphrodite, they're like the male and female literally both in one body. No. And Satan has beguiled you Christian churches into not even believing what Paul said about the male and female being one in Christ Jesus. Right? I don't think he stuttered when he said that 2,000 years ago. You can't quote some jackass from the 20th century, like I keep telling you, and agree with him rather than Paul from the first. He's what's called a contemporary of Jesus, right? You're not. You're 2,000 damn years later. And we're still dealing with the same problems since the fall. And like I told you, 1,000 years is as a day to God in the earth, right? Can be 1,000 years to God as a day. Or Yom Echad, right? Which is day one, right? As well. Right. If you read it in the Greek, it actually says, one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day, right? That's Yom Echad in the Hebrew. That's the first day when God created all the light, right? In his celestial universe and our terrestrial universe, right? Probably both at the same time, starting there to here, right? That could be why it took 1,000 years, huh? Right. Now, do you make the star for the planet first, scientists, right? Or the planet first and then the stars? Probably the star first. Right. The planet needs the star's light and the radiation from it to sustain life itself. Why is radiation also something that can destroy life, right? If you got too much, like oxygen. You need the right amount of oxygen, the right amount of nitrogen, and the right amount of carbon dioxide, which, like God, you can't see, can you, scientists? That's the point. I saw God on that throne. Not many men can, right? But all I can do is tell you, right? And witness to my dream, right? That's still like what Joseph did with his brothers when he had dreams, right? Of even the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowing down before him. Now, day 4, Moses talks of the sun, the moon, and the stars of heaven being, I don't know, seen. See, another thing is you need an ozone layer, which is 3 layers of thick oxygen, right? Which is all it takes to protect us from the radiation of the sun, especially the dangerous kind, right? And don't tell me a designer didn't design it, scientist, until you came along and denied he designed it. Right? With free will means you can lie about it, just as the Christians are lying about certain things about Jesus themselves, and that makes you both wrong, right? By the way, it don't mean the Christians understand Jesus perfectly themselves, right? But if you've studied into the Bible, you can understand it better. If you come at a preconceived idea, not even Jesus himself can tell you you're wrong because you wouldn't know who he was. Why do you think I'm pointing out he has a girdle about his chest because of his paps, right? Which is the word translated from the Greek to the English by King James first. Then they put chest or breast there, right? That's a neutral word. But the word used in the Greek, even in the Old Testament, Septuagint, right, is also only associated with a woman's breast, right, not a man's. And like I told you before, the Hebrew Song of Solomon and the Greek Song of Solomon has more reference to breast than the original Song of Solomon. And they're putting breast in there left and right? Which means they're misinterpreting it a little bit, right? For some reason. But it's talking about the breast being used sexually and the man embracing the woman with one hand behind her head and the other hand behind her back. I don't know. That's called a hug, an embrace, right? Right. It's describing it for you, though. Like what it said about a man seed coming out of his body if he's alone. Well, we know if you're alone, there's only one way to get it out. Before evening, by the way. The way you have to wash after. And you're only unclean, which means you can do it at least once a day, right? Two. And you're only unclean to evening before grace, Christians, right? You understand that? Mm-hmm. The law is not our problem. It's when we misinterpret the law and apply our 2 cents to it that it becomes of none effect, like Jesus told the scribes and Pharisees. Like, honor thy father and mother. This was a practice where your mother and father, as they got older, moved in with the oldest son, who then had to take care of them, as they aged. Exactly. But what the chief priests, scribes, and Pharisees came up with was the idea of a nursing home, right? You pay someone else to take care of them, right? Yeah, read the story. It's kind of like a nursing home situation, right? I can't take care of my parents, so I'm going to put them in a nursing home, right? Right. Well, it's telling you all this for a reason, right? Whether you like it or not, right? Okay, let's continue with the debates, right?
One of the most intriguing aspects of the RH negative versus RH positive is that science really does not have a specific answer as to why some people should be negative and why other people should be positive.
That means
like any virus or bacteria or disease, if you
have sex with Satan and he's RH positive, and say Adam and Eve were RH negative, what would happen? It would fuck them up. It would mess up Adam and Eve, right? It would give them a disease from which they died 1,000 years later from, right? Unlike being in a perfect environment, right? A snail, which is also a hermaphrodite, right? Some of them are, right? Not all, right? But some species are hermaphroditic. Now, if the water therein is clean, right, and there's no diseases in the water, they can reproduce clonally, meaning the snail can have sex with itself. Right. But a human hermaphrodite has to play with itself, masturbation style, like Moses said, right? And then put its own sperm, right, in its own vagina, right? Medically speaking. Not talking about sex. I'm talking about a person's design, right? And how a hermaphrodite would have to do that.
If you mix these blood types, you can get interesting effects. If
Right.
you're Rh negative and you get Rh positive blood, the red blood cells look different. They look like an invading bacteria or virus, and your immune.
See, it's like an invading virus, which is what AIDS is, which is what, I don't know, even syphilis, even gonorrhea. There's also bacteria STDs, right? And different types, right? Chlamydia. Though I never had anything but an NSU. Well, that means this is a non-specific urethritis, right? It wasn't specific what I had, right?
Will react to that, and that can lead to various diseases and problems.
When you're in a situation where you have a pregnant woman who is Rh negative and the father is Rh positive, what we find is that the pregnant woman's immune system quite literally views the growing fetus as something alien, no pun intended. In that situation, medicine is provided to ensure that the fetus grows healthy.
Now, like with Big Roddy and Kathy, right? Little Roddy was Rh positive, but Big Roddy didn't get her pregnant until March, right? And that's because Kathy met another man who got her pregnant first, and then she was with Big Roddy and didn't know who really got her pregnant, or so she says. And again, not to, discuss her own past, but I know about it, so it's just general knowledge, right? But the first baby, even with an Rh positive female, is usually okay. It's the second baby, right? She needs the medication for, right? The most, right? You can use